And here we are, Croc Talk with Chris Croc. Terror attacks, both naturalized Muslim U.S. citizens. One from Lebanon, another from, where was the other one from? Liberia, I think. I'll get into that in a moment. But we have a real problem with the radical Islamists being naturalized and brought into our country, because I will lay out a bevy of all the latest terror attacks in the past several weeks from naturalized U.S. citizens who are Muslims, radical Islamic terrorists. It's extraordinarily important we tell the truth. Also, I want you, with your house of worship, whether you're a Jew, Catholic, a Baptist, Christian, whatever, you need to harden your place of worship, because radical Islamic terrorism is expanding, not staying stagnant. Also, Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. John Cornyn loses it again today. This is not the one where he puts his hand in front of the camera. This is a brand new one today. I will have that video for you. Also, we have James Talarico quietly deletes a whole bunch of his posts with all these crazed far leftist groups that endorsed him and what they stand for. I'll tell you what James Talarico does not want you to know. Oh, we have so much more coming up. What do I got also here? Oh, gosh. Austin ISD is trying to hide their gay pride celebrations so that the public doesn't know about it, because they don't want to get caught doing it, because, of course, it violates our Texas laws. And then we have a crazy, super mega entitled Harris County judge. I'll be filling in tomorrow morning on the monster station in Houston, News Radio 740 KTRH, for their morning show, filling in for Jimmy Barrett from 5 to 8 a.m. And this will be one of the things I talk about, is this Harris County judge. The judge is the most powerful person in the county. Harris County is Houston. And this woman getting kicked out, forcibly removed out from an event that she expected to be at for free. It's just wild. Talk about no kings from the left. This is no queens. This is great. But first, this show is brought to you by IRSprob.com, IRSprob.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. Randy Martin has been my CPA for over 8 years for me, my wife, our businesses, and our kids, and he is da bomb. Radical Islamic terrorism. We have the Austin shooter, who was wearing his Property of Islam hoodie with a Quran in his car. He's a naturalized Muslim citizen. We have the Old Dominion shooter today in Norfolk area of Virginia, naturalized Muslim citizen. We have the New York City teen bombers, children of naturalized Muslim citizens. Michigan synagogue attack, naturalized Muslim citizen. We have a massive problem with radical Islam and naturalizing people into U.S. citizens who are radical Islamists. I've got a lot of new information that you haven't caught on this yet that's broken the past hour. I will share that with you in just a few. Fox News' Bill Malugin saying multiple sources now confirm that the terrorist who shot up the Old Dominion classroom, shooting and killing a professor, an officer, his name is Mohammed Shocker. Mohammed Jalal, a naturalized U.S. citizen from Sierra Leone. Convicted in 2017, he's a former National Guardsman, convicted in 2017 for providing support to ISIS, Islamic State, of course, and then ISIL, Islamic State in the Levant. He was released in December of 2024. Here's what DOJ said after his arrest in 2016, Malugin says. Jalal praised the gunman who killed 5 U.S. military members in a terrorist attack in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and in July 2015 stated that he had been thinking about conducting an attack similar to the November 2009 attack at Fort Hood in Texas. That was Major Nidal Hassan, the terrorist who was telling people he was a terrorist and hated America and hated his country, and yet we promoted him and allowed him to stay until he slaughtered our beloved troops who are not allowed to carry weapons, because we can't trust military with weapons on base, can we? Only the radical Islamists. National Guardsman turned ISIS terrorist named as a gunman shot dead after opening fire at Old Dominion University. Before I get into this, I want to share some compelling video and pictures and such. This is an Old Dominion University student who was at the scene, witnessed, and guess what? He tells us who it was that shot and killed the professor that committed the terrorist attack. Watch this.
Was the shooter? Did they describe those people at all?
The description of the shooter, they said he was a Muslim man. I know he was a student at ODU.
I'm sorry, what? He's a Muslim man? How could this be?
Was the shooter? Did they describe those people at all?
The description of the shooter, they said he was a Muslim man. I know he was a student at ODU.
And I have his picture, and let me share it with you here. This is his picture as a radical jihadi from Sierra Leone that was a naturalized U.S. citizen who killed and did a terror attack today in Old Dominion. We're going to get to the synagogue in West Bloomfield, Michigan. That's very important. Hang on, because that's very important. This is good versus evil. This is good versus evil. That's what this is. Very important. Stand by for that. Here he is, the terrorist. We gave him a gun and allowed him to be in the National Guard while he wanted to slaughter us and kill us. And there he is with his National Guard outfit on, thinking about jihad, slaughtering us as a Muslim naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone. Are you starting to sense a pattern? And if I sound angry, I am. Because our people being slaughtered, my people that we allow into this country that we should not be allowing into this country. Why didn't we denaturalize him? He was naturalized under Joe Biden. Here is the crazed Democrat leftist in Norfolk. I guess he's the DA. And he's blaming Republicans for an radical Islamic terror murder. He is blaming Republicans and gun laws. When this guy was arrested and served several years in jail because he was working for and providing support to ISIS. And this is what the Democrats' response is. Watch this.
National sickness. We live in a country where people care more about guns than they care about 6-year-old children. They care more about guns than they care about synagogue worshipers. And they care more about guns than they do about college students.
Is he going to say anything about the gunman yelling, Allahu Akbar? Allahu Akbar? ISIS? Let's hear if he says anything about radical Islamic terrorism.
What that means is that it does not matter how hard President Hemphill works, how hard the chiefs work, somebody will be a victim eventually. It is a matter of time. And until there is the political will to break the spell of the cult of gun absolutism, you will see more incidents like this. So if you're looking for somebody to blame, don't look at anybody up here. Look at our lawmakers who don't have the courage to implement sensible gun control measures. Look to a Supreme Court that enables them and do something about it. So that is the lesson. Let's mourn the people who have died. Let's decry what has happened, but let's keep the focus where it belongs. It belongs on us and having to change something so that we don't have to suffer through this.
Good job. Nothing about radical Islamists coming into this country, being allowed and brought into this country. Nothing about them and slaughtering us for jihad. It's all about Republicans and guns. He said it was a cult about guns, a cult of Republicans. No, it's a cult of radical Islamists who are trying to slaughter as many of us as possible. They are terrorists. You jail them for supporting ISIS, he comes out and he kills us. And this idiot blames Republicans and gun laws. That's how this keeps happening. Mind you, the Democrats refused to fund DHS, Department of Homeland Security, which was founded after 9/11 to stop another 9/11. How are they doing right now? How is the funding going right now? Let's continue. Let's go on to, let me finish up on Old Dominion, then we're going to go to the horrifying West Bloomfield, Michigan terror attack by a man who is Muslim, who is a naturalized U.S. citizen from Lebanon, who never should have been naturalized, who yelled Allahu Akbar as well, I believe. And I've got a picture of him and his family that he put up He's upset about something with, well, obviously this is all about Iran and attacking Iran too. And let me tell you something. I support what we did in Iran. I support what we're doing in Iran, and the fact that the new Ayatollah Khomeini, the junior Ayatollah, if you will, the son of Ayatollah, whose legs are badly hurt, he lost at least one leg, is sending out new commands and saying we can hit him in other places, not just in the Strait of Hormuz. He is apparently activating cells. This probably is part of that. Whether they're cells or not, I don't know. But let me tell you what the former Assistant FBI Director Chris Zwecker said this afternoon on Fox News. He said that there were 23 Lebanese people that were a part of, that are Hezbollah, as they call it, were training to slaughter us and do terror acts in rural North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. There are cells here. They were allowed to come in as one of the 2 million gotaways here. I've told you about Jason Jones, retired DPS captain, head of border operations, border counterterrorism and counterintelligence for the border as DPS, now retired and is a Newsmax border correspondent who I've had on my show so many times. He's incredible. He was on this podcast recently again. And he said that how the terrorists smuggle in people like Iranian terrorists like Hezbollah, Hamas, into this country to strike, which they could do shortly, and he said the cartel members that smuggle them in do not care if they see New York City dissolve in front of their eyes, that they smuggle these people, and they do not care. It's all about money, and they get more money for radical Islamist terrorists that they smuggle in. So how they do it is they'll take, under Joe Biden, they'll take 300 illegals and send them that way, quote-unquote innocent illegals, send them that way, and then they'll smuggle in, and there'll be a cell of 18 Islamists, radical Islamists. They'll take those 18, and they'll send 2 at a time, so that if 2 get caught, the other 16 won't break up the cell. 2 go that way. So they'll take 300, send them that way. They're making money off of them. They'll send 2 terrorists that way, and then that's how they do it. So that is absolutely what's happening under Joe Biden. Now, going back to Mohammed Baylor Jallah, 36, who did the terror attack at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. He's a former National Guard soldier. He stormed into a classroom, asked if this was a Reserve Officers Training Corps class. After a person in the room confirmed it was, he opened fire on the professor. A student then stabbed him to death. God bless that student. Sources told the New York Post the professor, a retired military officer, was rushed to the hospital where he later died, sadly. Jallah, originally from Sierra Leone, was released from prison in 2024 after being caught attempting to hand information to ISIS and ISIL in 2015. So this is a terrorist, and a George W. Bush appointed judge set him free early. He was supposed to be sentenced. He was sentenced to 11 years behind bars in 2017, so he shouldn't have been coming out for at least another 2 years. It was to be followed then by 5 years of supervised release. Good job, George W. Bush appointed judge. Good job letting the terrorist out to finish the job. Now, this from journalist Greg Price. In the last month, 2 men from Sierra Leone with the same last name, Jallah, have killed people in Virginia. Abdul Jallah, an illegal alien Muslim who murdered Stephanie Minter at a bus stop, and Mohammed Jallah, a convicted ISIS supporter who went on a shooting spree at Old Dominion. Are you seeing a pattern? By the way, you can do messaging. I'll see it in here. I think it's for if you do it on YouTube. I don't know how it all works, but YouTube, Rumble, and other ones I can see when you message me, and I'll reply on the air with it. Ryan Grimm, another journalist, says the man who rammed his... Okay, now we're going to Michigan. This has extra significance to me. That all these are important, but the one in Michigan has extra significance to me because this is good versus evil. This is all good versus evil. Radical Islam is evil. Targeting Jews to kill Jews. Good versus evil. Let me play some stuff for you here. This is the FBI spokesperson in Norfolk, Virginia, actually. Hold on. Let me play this one here.
It was an act of terrorism. I can tell you that we have confirmed reports that prior to him conducting this act of terrorism, he shouted, or stated Allah Akbar, and he was formerly a subject of a FBI investigation in material supporting terrorism.
We may never know the motive. He yelled Allah Akbar. I wonder what his motive was. Perhaps he was going on a peaceful day, a nice sunny day, like the New York, the CNN described beautifully the terrorist who happened upon bombs that were thrown over at Mandani, not at people against the Islamization of New York City. No. Okay. The man who rammed his explosive-laden truck into a Michigan synagogue today. These are attacks, as we know, that happened within an hour or so of each other. The man who rammed his explosive-laden truck in a Michigan synagogue was named Ayman Ghazala. Source familiar with the situation. Ghazala posted photos overnight of his family members, including young children. I'm going to put that up right here. Ghazala posted photos overnight of his family members, including young children who were killed in a recent Israeli attack on the town of Mashgara, Lebanon. And that's what we got right there. Now, very important to know, though, that this would mean he's obviously a radical Islamic terrorist because, well, we'll continue with the story. Here's the video, by the way. I wanted to show you this, too, from this terror attack, because a lot of people were wondering why
Are we seeing that smoke on the roof? But we're seeing heavy smoke coming out of the entryway, one of the entryway doors of the synagogue. So this just goes to show, you know, something has got to be going on in there, some sort of fire.
That looks like a very active fire.
It does.
It's a big building, so obviously it doesn't look like it's billowing yet, but it's with the way it's coming out of the side there, it definitely would appear that multiple locations inside are likely on fire. That is stronger smoke than what we saw earlier. So again, these, you know, we've been showing these images in a little bit of a delay because again, we're trying to protect the law enforcement, what they're doing and how they're doing it, because we don't want to be providing all of that information just yet. But
this terrorist from Lebanon, put bombs in the back of his vehicle, had a rifle on his person, drove through, and this was at a this is the largest, according to their own website, the largest Reformed temple in the country. And so this is a massive target. They did not apparently have bollards in front of one of the entrances, which every church and every synagogue needs to have now. He drove right through one of the main entrances and he was driving down the freaking hallway. And thankfully, one of the security guards was hit, but thankfully they shot him and they killed that SOB. The flames were burning because the vehicle was burning, perhaps because he had lit some kind of a fuse to have mass explosions. This was a massive terror attack that could have wildly succeeded. And there were children in a preschool, precious Jewish children in a preschool. I will remind you what's very important for me as a Christian. God says, if you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you. Jews are God's chosen children, even if they are secular Jews who don't believe. This is a pure good versus evil. So the terrorist, the radical Islamic terrorist, with a rifle found dead inside of the vehicle, reports the Daily Mail. The sheriff says the synagogue security engaged in gunfire with the suspect after he drove into the building. They found a large amount of explosives in the back of the vehicle. He deliberately plowed into the Child Early Learning Center, and there were children there, trying to kill little children. Radical Islamic terrorist, naturalized U.S. citizen. And now, I don't mean to make this so Jewish-centric, but they're Jews and they were attacked for a reason. When you come, and I'm a Baptist Christian, you know, whatever, but when you come for the Jews, you come for us. When the radical Islamists, where my son went to school at UTD, came for the Jews, I came for them. The I told you last night about how Jews were harassed by radical Islamists on the campus of UT Dallas. They were texting them. They got their number somehow, sending vile things to them, horrible insults. They were following the Jewish woman home to her apartment. Richardson police had to be with her because of the terrorists that accompanied that campus at UTD. I played you a video yesterday from radical Islamists on that campus. Many of them were arrested when they had that illegal pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas rally because they loved seeing the Jews slaughtered and tortured and kidnapped, including 46 Americans and murdered. Anyways, this is good versus evil. Let me tell you something else that's very important. I had on my pastor, and we'll have him on again in the near future, Dr. Robert Jeffress, my friend and my pastor. I had him on recently with the terrorist hit, if you want to call it that, but it was terrorism, at that church in Minneapolis, St. Paul, that was invaded by Don Lemon and all those Black Lives Matter activists. They terrorized that church. Children were crying. They would not let parents go into the daycare center and get their kids and get out of that church. One woman broke her arm running from those terrorists. I talked to Dr. Jeffress after that, and after something like this, it's very important. Here's what he said. Number one, the first thing he did after that terrorism there at that church in St. Paul was immediately call the security team together and say, what are we going to do when this happens, not if. And your church needs to do that. Your synagogue needs to do that. Your Catholic church, whatever. Number two, your church needs to have an active security plan. And Dr. Jeffress said, if you're not big like us, you can go to the website. Department of Homeland Security has a website, and it teaches you what you can do if you're a small church and how you can defend your church. Get freaking armed. If you don't want to be armed, that's fine. Have people in your church armed. Have them trained through that Homeland Security website. There are services you can hire to teach you, and have that weapon right on you here. I always like to have my weapon on me. Never used it, and probably never will, but it's there for a reason if it does need to be used. And Dr. Jeffress said this in my podcast. He says it publicly, so it's okay. He says, this is how it works in our church. Somebody may be able to get off one shot, but that's all they will ever get before they meet their maker, because there are so many of us and so many unmarked officers and so many publicly marked officers all over our campus that you might get one shot up, but you will be freaking dead in a second. Marcos Lopez says, I support the Iranian women's soccer players for standing strong together. They are the true heroes. They really are. I'm so proud of them. Yesterday I played that video of an Australian woman chasing the Iranian IRCG handlers out as they were trying to grab these women and stop them from defecting, from running. This is from Auburn, MAGA. I go to a cowboy church. Our users are armed, and so is the whole church. You come in screaming, and Allah Akbar, you're leaving in a Ziploc bag. Yes! Yes! Yes, I am one of the many people. I carry this piece. I've never pulled it out. I'll probably never pull it out. I'll probably never shoot it, but it's there for a freaking reason. You are popped and dropped. So you need a plan. You need to be prepared for terrorists like Black Lives Matter. Ushers. That's exactly right. Auburn MAGA said that. Ushers. That's exactly right. This means the world to me. It is satanic what these terrorists are doing. It is evil what Don Lemon and those Black Lives Matter people. Oh, and I have to play this song, but you have to see this, because I saw this live on Fox News. They replayed this. This is Democrat Alyssa Slotkin, senator from the state of Michigan. Listen closely to what she said. But while you're listening to this and while you're watching this, I want you to be thinking about something. I want you to be thinking about the church in St. Paul, Minnesota, City's Church, that Don Lemon and those Black Lives Matter terrorists invaded and terrorized. Think of that while you're watching this and listen closely to what she says, because this is massive to me.
Getting some reaction from Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin. She spoke just moments ago. Let's listen to that.
Obviously, as a senator from Michigan, I'm watching what's going on right now with Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, Michigan, extremely closely. I know this place very well. Grew up not far from there, and law enforcement are still securing the scene. I'm not going to get ahead of the police. We have to listen to the warnings that they're putting out to the local community. That includes friends and family of mine who are sheltering in place and follow law enforcement. But I will just say everyone deserves the right to worship in peace. Everyone. And an act of anti-Semitism, an act of violence, of hate, should be treated to the fullest extent of the law. And I'm so sick of another one of these incidents all the time in my community, across the country. And I think we need to acknowledge that we have a problem. And I'm just sick about it. So we will keep people posted. More will come out. We will learn about the intentions of this madman. But in the meantime, this is very personal. And I'm just so sick of communities of all kinds not being able to worship in peace. And this time the Jewish community is again on the receiving end of abhorrent violence. And I'm over it.
She says that everybody has a right to worship in peace. Did Alyssa Slotkin, and does she support what Don Lemon and those Black Lives Matter terrorists did at that St. Paul church in Minnesota? Did they have a right to worship in peace? She's right. But I wonder what she said about the church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Because they had a right to worship in peace. They were terrorized. That was an act of terrorism. It was designed to stop them because of politics. Anytime you use violence or intimidation or the threat thereof to achieve a political means, it is terrorism. It doesn't have to be radical Islamist, though it mostly is. Friendly reminder again, if you're just joining us, you can comment, and I will be able to see it in real time, and that is going to be great through either, looks like YouTube and or Rumble. Keep them coming. Keep the comments coming. I'm seeing them and love talking to you about that on the air live as I get them. So, police say the truck crashed into the building, then caught fire. Smoke at the scene is what we saw coming out of the top. It's a preschool at a large congregation. At least one individual came into the temple. Security saw him engaged in gunfire. Second of all, it is the largest, as I mentioned earlier, the largest Reform synagogue in the U.S. The Jewish Federation of Detroit is asking all Jewish organizations to go to the lockout protocol, lockout and lockdown. They should never, in the United States of America, be afraid and have to lock their doors. I remind you yesterday from the amazing scholar, the one of the top scholars in the country and even in the world on the Holocaust, is at UT Dallas, and I had him on my show after the Hamas terrorists broke the ceasefire and attacked on October 7th. And he went through the long history of Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood and Israel and all that stuff in Gaza. And there was a Muslim, first of all, the founder of Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood, had Hitler's Mein Kampf book, read it, loved it, and Hitler used a Muslim, because of them, they had dispatched a Muslim unit that was slaughtering Jews in the Holocaust. There was a Muslim unit that Hitler approved of and had go in and slaughter Jews. They are satanic. Not every Muslim, but these radical Islamist Muslims I'm talking about. 10% at least, right, is about. They are satanic. Let's see. Marco says, shootings happen when no one is carrying. Try it at a Texas gun show. I've never heard of one. I've never heard of one. That's a good point. I have one more neat little thing to show you here. Can you guess? Can you guess the terrorist is from Dearborn, Michigan? And can you guess who his congressional representative is? The terrorist who did that terror attack today on a West Bloomfield, Michigan synagogue. Let's see, who can you think of who is it that represents that area? Oh, is that her? Oh, Rashida Tlaib represents that area. Can anybody say Allahu Akbar? Yes. Rashida Allahu Akbar Tlaib. Can you believe it? I sure can. And I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say on this. One woman who spoke to WDIV Detroit said, "I'm scared to death for my friends. I've never seen anything like this. My first thought was the children. Parents and grandparents are coming. They're scared to death for their children. This is senseless." Well, it's not senseless. It's radical Islam. It's good versus evil. This is not senseless. It is evil attacking good. Yes, Auburn MAGA correctly said Omar and Tlaib. It is not Ilhan Omar. She is, of course, a radical Islamist from Somalia who married her brother to get into this country. She is in suburban Minneapolis. I don't know if she's in Minneapolis itself, but there's a lot of Jews in that district, too. It's unbelievable that they're voting for their own demise there. Not every Jew, but enough. This is also something else. You have to see this. Remember the CNN repeatedly said that the attack and Abby Phillip and two leftist recent journalism grads who are super leftists that have pronouns and everything for CNN wrote a glowing piece about the two radical Islamic terrorists whose parents are radical or whose parents are Muslim that are naturalized citizens. Shocker. And how it was a beautiful day, the weather was great, and everything was great until they went to a quote anti-Muslim rally, and then bombs showed up in their hands or something. Well, we now know. Also, there's a lie that they didn't know each other. These two didn't know each other. One of their attorneys said. Well, we have a lot more information today. This is out of ABC7 in New York City.
Gracie Manch.
The two young men accused of throwing those homemade bombs have been considering other targets. Eyewitness News reporter Phil Tate is live on the Upper East Side with details on this. Phil, good morning.
Yeah, Rhiannon and Pedro, good morning. Right now, we're learning that investigators have recovered documents as well as electronic devices that help to paint a clear picture of the relationship with these two men who are behind bars this morning, and also possible future plans that they had. Now, these two men are accused of being behind this attack near Gracie Mansion this past Saturday. The suspects, in their late teens, identified as Emir Balat and Ibrahim Kayumi, allegedly told detectives they were inspired to attack anti-Muslim demonstrators on behalf of the Islamic State. We're learning this morning from investigators the pair considered other targets before deciding to head to Gracie Mansion Saturday morning. They searched a storage unit in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where they discovered a notebook discussing soft targets such as shopping centers, although no specific target was mentioned. The notebook and other evidence recovered suggests the two had been planning some type of attack for at least a week. This, as Balat's attorney claims, they had no relationship. Electronic devices were also searched. We're hearing from the officers who chased down the two men accused of trying to set off bombs near the mayor's home on the Upper East Side. Chief Aaron Edwards and Sergeant Louis Navarro. They say there was no time to think as protesters faced off outside Gracie Mansion. The two saw the suspects holding bombs and went after them. Fortunately, the explosives did not go off and the men were arrested. As for this investigation, law enforcement is really taking a deep dive into those documents recovered as well as the electronic devices. The two men behind bars this morning, well, they now face federal charges.
Well, so remember, they didn't know each other. They weren't planning it. They just were going to a nice day in the city. Well, now you know more of the story, right? More of the story. All right. Wait. I got to see something. Sometimes breaking news crosses. Fort Worth police currently investigating active scene near US 287, closing some lanes. I don't know if that means there's an active shooter or what, but I'll keep you posted. Okay. Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. I have an insanely comical Bud Kennedy column today where Bud Kennedy, when he's not attacking people like my pastor, Dr. Robert Jeffers, when he's not attacking pastors like Dr. Jack Graham, he's suddenly going from attacking them and our beliefs as Christians and stuff, to now praising them. Oh, why? Because they're supporting Cornyn and rejecting Paxton. Now, I have no problem disagreeing with my pastor on things. This is not a biblical disagreement. This is a political disagreement. And by the way, if you can support President Trump, but yet say Ken Paxton's very messy personal life is somehow bad, but yet the one with Trump is we can overlook that. That's total BS. Complete and total BS. And Bud Kennedy doesn't broach that, but I will broach that. And the other thing is just people falsely identifying Ken Paxton's pastor as Reverend Jack Graham. He has not gone to that church reportedly for 8 or 10 years. And he does not list where he's a member of because he doesn't want people to know where he's a member of, nor does his wife, former wife, Angela Paxton, mention what church he goes to. Other people in here, I think Kennedy is questioning his Christianity. Well, let's say Ken Paxton did have an affair behind his wife's back. Let's say Ken Paxton did do this or did do that. Let's say he did. No problem. Okay. Yeah. If you are a saved Christian, you cannot lose your salvation. You can sin. One of the greatest people of the entire Bible, King David, sinned. And he covered up his sin with a murder. He saw Bathsheba on a rooftop, and he wanted her because she was super hot, and she was naked. So he took her, and he got her. And then, when she became pregnant, his sin had found him out, and everybody was going to find out. He had her, his friend, her husband, his friend, killed on the battlefield, shoved up to the front to be killed. And then he paid. The prophet can't remember which one it was, Nathan, or I can't remember which one it was, but said, for your sin, these things are going to happen, some bad stuff's going to happen, and it sure did, with his son and other things. But David King freaking David wrote the Psalms, y'all, most of them. King David had an affair and killed his buddy to cover it up. So don't freaking talk to me about Ken Paxton and his religiosity, especially from a secularist humanist. I don't know if he's a Christian, Bud Kennedy, but if he appears to be a secularist humanist to me. So don't you be telling us what to do. You can kiss my Baptist rump, Bud Kennedy. And I can't get mad at Bud because he's a dork and he's always wrong. He's more somebody to be laughed at. But I'm passionate about people saying Ken Paxton is horrible and we can't do anything about him. Let me do something real fast first before I got a new video I have to play for you. And I've got to read this Bud Kennedy column, not the whole thing, but just highlights because it's so freaking hysterical what Bud Kennedy is trying to call out Christians who he normally attacks. I love this. But first, this show is brought to you by IRSprob.com, IRSPROB.com, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies, helping good people with IRS problems. 214-214-3000 is the number, 214-214-3000. Here's Randy Martin, invited down to UT Austin, which is where he got his accountancy degree from, the best accountancy school in the state of Texas. Not surprised that my friend went there and kicked butt. They invited him to come back to speak to the students. Randy's an amazing man. He's a dear friend and a bold Christian. So use him. He's incredible for IRS audits, tax planning strategies, any troubles you have with the IRS with your business or personal. He's your man. He's amazing. And he's been my CPA for over 8 years. Thank you, Randy. The other great business I got to tell you about, this is really special too. Both these two people I'm dear friends with and grateful for in my life. Although Jim is old school, so dear friends is probably not the way to describe it, but he's a friend. And when I call him, he picks up the phone. And it's like I get a little Texas Home Improvement, his show, which is on in Houston, in Austin, in San Antonio, and Dallas. I get a personal show. I get to ask him a question when I call him. But every single piece of plumbing in this house has been done by Jim Dutton. 17-foot under my house replaced because the pipe went out. Jim Dutton from Due West Foundation and Plumbing Repair. DU-West. If you want the best, call Due West, du-west.com, or call 972-406-0912, 972-406-0912, du-west.com. So, my water heater, 17-foot of pipe. Anytime there's been a backup here, he's done it all. He's tested this house before I bought it, the static test, the foundation he checked out, and by the way, and he did root shields around my house. He does retaining walls, concrete leveling. But the other thing that's very important is Jim says, don't ever hire a plumber that's not also a foundation. Don't hire a foundation that's not also a plumber because they will blame each other. Don't bleep around. Use due-west.com. My wife worked there for 3 years. We're good friends with the whole family. Adam and Johan are the third generation in the business, and Mary is Jim's wife, and she's a friend of our family. Okay. So that's what I want to tell you about that. Let's start out with laughing at Ken Paxton, because laughing at John Cornyn. There's a brand new video. It's not the one where he puts his hand up on the camera from the NBC News reporter, the mainstream media reporter. It is a new one from today. Let's start out with this from yesterday. I played you this one yesterday. It's great to watch it again. Look at this guy. He's totally losing it, but today he loses it way worse. I'll show you that next. Here's the first one.
Previously said that nuking the filibuster would be taking a wrecking ball to Senate rules. Is that no longer true?
I said I'd be open to reforms.
What would you say to those who say you just changed your mind to win the president's endorsement?
I'd say that's not true.
You also said that if leadership...
I think we're through. Go ahead. Go away.
Thank you.
We're through. Go away. Put your hand on the camera. He is losing it because he should lose it, because he's losing the election. When somebody has to spend $62 to $69 million versus Paxton's $4 million to get about a 1-point advantage, he's lost it. And he also didn't get Trump's endorsement, and he better not. Trump, don't put your thumb on the scale on this one, because we're gonna defy you and put Ken Paxton in, because his policies are the best. That's why. Not his personal life, but his policies are the best policies for me as a Christian and as a conservative. Here's the new video of John Cornyn. This one's even worse. This is great. This is this very attractive Mike Lindell reporter who's always out there causing a ruckus in a good way. He loses it today. Watch this. He's in meltdown mode.
What do you have to say to the Americans who are questioning why President Trump should endorse you when many say that you've been vehemently against his agenda?
Do you speak for all these Americans? I don't understand.
Yeah, actually, I do.
Yeah.
Many people are asking this question. Do you have a response? I mean, you've been borderline pro-amnesty, red flag laws.
Are you being paid?
Anti-border
Are you
law.
being paid by the Paxton campaign?
No, I'm just a concerned American citizen representing millions of other Americans.
No, I think you're a paid influencer, because none of that's true, and you know it.
Wow. Look at that devilish grin on his face. He's losing it, and he's lost it, and he's not going to win. And Ken Paxton's got a pair of cojones, and he's going to do what we want him to do, and he's going to get the election. And I could not be happier about that. So that's the latest one from today. Can you believe that one? Now, this from Bud Kennedy. My Bud Kennedy story first. I had him in the studio once on some issue, or as Dwayne would say, some issue about the statues. No, I don't know what it was about. But I had him in the studio, and he found out in our conversation on the air that my son Isaac and my daughter, but my son Isaac was homeschooled, and he became saddened, and he said, "Chris, I'm so sad," and I said, "Why?" He said, "Because all the children are going to miss out on your son, and in the school they're going to miss out." That's his backhanded way of saying, what's wrong with you? You're not socializing your child, and you're going to make some Bible-thumping school shooter or something. I don't know. Well, Bud, I can report to you that years later, my son just graduated from UTD a month or two ago with a 4.0, summa cum laude, like his pappy, and fluent in Japanese. There's 5 levels of fluency that are recognized by the Japanese government. 5 is beginner. 1 is like you're born and raised there, if you will. Total fluency, he's 2 out of 5. He's right here, and his next test will be for a 1, which means he's like high school level Japanese, one of the hardest languages in the entire world to learn. So, Bud, and he's getting married in the fall. Bud, I think he was okay. Same thing with my daughter. Let's see here. This comes from Auburn MAGA. Hey, Chris, will there be a runoff? Let's see, runoff. What does that say? Poll? I don't know. Runoff poll between Paxton and Cornyn before the election, so we don't split up votes. Runoff coal? I don't know what that means, but I don't know what that means. You can share it a little bit more, because I don't want to run off coal between Paxton. Maybe meant poll. So, I don't know what that means. We'll see what he follows up with. Okay, here's what Bud Kennedy says about Ken Paxton and his religiosity. Bud Kennedy, who would never skip a moment or a beat to attack a Christian pastor for preaching God's word properly. Bud Kennedy is now praising my pastor, Dr. Robert Jeffress, who he disagrees with probably 99.9%, Bud Kennedy probably disagrees with 99.9% of the time. Bud Kennedy is praising my pastor, Dr. Robert Jeffress at First Dallas, and Jack Graham from Prestonwood. This is so funny. He will attack them 99.9% of the time, but he'll praise them for something that he wants them to do. Vote. Sorry, I didn't have my reading glasses, says Auburn MAGA. Will there be a runoff vote between Paxton and Cornyn before the election? Yes, the runoff vote will be happening. If Paxton or Cornyn wants to drop out, that is coming up Tuesday at 5 p.m. They have to, I believe is the date. I'm 99.9% sure that's what I read. So the runoff vote will be happening very soon. Tuesday is the last day for anybody to drop out, and Paxton's not dropping out. Okay. This is from Bud Kennedy. Paxton versus John Cornyn Senate race divides Texas pastors. It doesn't divide Texas pastors. It doesn't divide anybody because they're both Republicans. They're both going to tend to vote the way we want them to. No one's divided. But Bud Kennedy's trying to make division between us. And that's offensive, but that's okay. Bud, it's just Bud. Rub his belly, give him a noogie. He'll be like the Pillsbury Doughboy and laugh. Paxton supporters deride evangelicals who join Cornyn's faith council. I'm a Paxton supporter, and I'm not deriding evangelicals who join Cornyn's faith council. I disagree with them. One of them is my pastor. Faith leaders join Cornyn council urging higher moral standards. Really, Bud? Hey, did you say anything about Trump and his horrible moral standards, and these same pastors support Trump? I don't see it in your column. Huh. So you're picking and choosing things to try to make up division on us. It's just not going to work. But anyway, Jack Graham, Robert Jeffress, he mentions here, suddenly he cites and praises my pastor and Jack Graham. Southern Baptists, Bud Kennedy writes, are apparently no longer welcome in the Paxton tent either. Southern Baptists are no longer welcome in the Paxton tent? What do you mean? I'm a Southern Baptist. I'm a Christian first, but I'm a Southern Baptist. That happens to be the denomination. What do you mean we're no longer welcome in the Paxton tent? I'm in it. Many of us are. I guarantee you, if you took a poll of my church, I don't speak for a church, but I guarantee if we took a poll of most everybody in my church, you'd probably have, I'm going to just take a guess, a 70-30 vote for Paxton. That's my guess, at least I think. Bud Kennedy says, Cornyn's newly named Faith Advisory Council. Cornyn has attended Churches of Christ. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. In a letter, according to announcing the council, Kennedy says, the 5 ministers wrote that Texas needs leaders who serve with principle, wisdom, and dignity. Like Trump? Conflicting messages here? I think so. Scripture teaches, the minister's letter went on, that those who aspire to lead should be held to a higher moral standard. Well, gee, if that's the case, then you shouldn't have voted for President Trump because he has all sorts of personal issues, supposedly, with women and divorces or whatever, what have you. That didn't stop me, and it didn't stop these pastors like Graham and Jeffress from supporting him. Okay, continuing on. Paxton apparently still has, this is right here, watch this. Watch Bud Kennedy question whether Ken Paxton is saved, his salvation. Paxton apparently still has religion in his life. So Bud Kennedy doesn't understand Christianity. I talked about David and how he had an affair with Bathsheba and then killed her husband to cover up his sin. And Ken Paxton is saying that he's mocking. Bud Kennedy's mocking Ken Paxton that he apparently still has religion in his life. Would you say that about King David? After he did what he did, he apparently still had religion in his life. When did David write the Psalms? I don't know, but he apparently had religion in his life still. And St. Paul, the apostle, the most prolific author of the New Testament, was one of the most fervent killer of Jews. Of Christians that there ever was. Other than radical Islamists who are doing it to our own country now as we speak to today. Paxton's daughter, Maddie, said her father's not perfect. None of us are. Bud Kennedy says she gave no more specifics, yet her husband, aha! Bud Kennedy's got him. Her husband is a pastor of a non-denominational, spirit-filled, he puts it in quotation, church in Central Texas. So there's Bud Kennedy to mock Christians while also praising Christians who go the way he wants them to go. So, all right, thank you, Bud, for amusing us for a little bit. Talarico. Let's play the latest Talarico video from today. It's, every day we play a Talarico video that comes across the wire because it's fun.
Did they teach you in Sunday school that Jesus Christ himself was a radical feminist?
What do you mean, a radical feminist? What you mean is that Christianity is the only faith that treats women with dignity and respect and as an equal in a partnership, in a joining of flesh with their husband. What I've been taught in intense, awesome Christian counseling and Christian marriage programs that literally, my wife and I will say, saved our marriage about 8 years ago is when we finished everything up, put a bow on it. We've had the best marriage ever since then. Nothing's perfect, but it's amazing. Is that she is my strongest asset in my life. She is my strongest ally in my life. She is not my enemy. She's not an adversary. Adversary. She's my strongest asset in my life. She is my partner. I work with her on everything. There's transparency on everything, and I seek her on everything that could affect anything in this household because we are together. That's what Jesus taught us, that we lay our lives down for our wives, that we love our wives as Christ loved the church. That's not radical feminism. That's radical Jesus.
The American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us. God is non-binary. You can't call yourself a Christian.
By the way, you just go right into Genesis 1, open the Bible and start reading. It's just total bastardization. But that's because this guy, remember the scripture I read to you the other day about people wanting their ears tickled and follow people and have people preach what they want them to what they want to hear. I want to hear that abortion's okay. Boom, there's your guy. I want to hear that trans is okay. In fact, it's worship. There's your guy. I want to hear that gay marriage is awesome and being gay is to be celebrated. That's your guy. Continuing.
Is non-binary. You can't call yourself a Christian and reject the stranger seeking asylum at our southern border.
Yeah, Romans 13. Just read Romans 13. It's not a long chapter. You obey the laws of the land, and if you do, you have nothing to fear, Paul wrote. If you disobey the laws of the land, you have everything to fear, because God installed the government, and God gave government the sword for a reason. Illegals have no business coming in here and have no business being welcomed here.
Our trans community needs abortion care too.
Modern science obviously recognizes that there are many more than two biological sexes. In fact,
by the way, he talks about abortion. God says, "For I knew you before I fitted you in your womb. I made you and I knew you before you were even in your mom's womb." And then he's talking about biological sexes. Let's go back on that.
many more than two biological sexes. In fact, there are 6.
6 biological sexes. That'll work real well in the general election.
Prophetic voices like Jesus have helped me reckon with my own whiteness. Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front. We are trying to fundamentally change the politics in this state and in this country.
Yeah. No need to sit and cry over, your whiteness or your masculinity.
Anyways, there's no way in hell he's going to win. And Karl Rove, love him or hate him, wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal yesterday talking about this and how in like 2000, 2008, whatever, he went back to like 2000-ish and went to like 3 or 4 or 5 different elections over the past 20 years. And every time the Democrats vote more than we do in the primaries, and every time they lose, they will not win, we will win, and this guy's a bad candidate because once those ads start going out after Paxton and Cornyn settle this, he's screwed. That's why he deleted everything off of his website quietly on all of his endorsements in the Democrat primary that show how radical he is. Let's go over some of them. This is Marcos Lopez. How many abortions has Talarico had? I don't know. In fact, we don't even know what his sexuality is. That's a great Marcos, you mean that Talarico, as a man, can have an abortion? Obviously, yes, we need trans abortion care. I don't know how many abortions James Talarico has had or may have had, but I know that if he's had any, his butt is very sore and will be for the rest of his life. One can only imagine. Sorry to get graphic, but he's the one that says men can do those things. Now, here's what James Talarico deleted off of his website today, quietly, without you knowing, as reported by the townhall.com. He took off the endorsement from Houston LGBTQ plus political caucus, the 134 PAC, Stonewall Democrats, and Mothers Against Greg Abbott. There's a good one. Yeah, you're supposed to bring us all together, Talarico. It was suddenly removed once he advanced to the general. The groups who have backed Talarico have espoused radical pro-transgender agenda for children as young as 7 years old. That's satanic. Promote drag queen story hours for kids, which are subject to prosecution in Texas. Have pushed DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion policies in Texas. Stonewall Democrats has an agenda of holding candidates accountable should they not toe the line of far-left trans ideology. The Waco chapter of Indivisible has also backed Talarico, which has called ICE a terror machine and labeled Minneapolis surge as an invasion. Mothers Against Greg Abbott called ICE agents monsters and proudly sell merchandise in promotion of that campaign, calling ICE monsters. Here's another thing. A host says to Talarico, something you love that's not your family or friends, Talarico, trans children. He loves little trans children. That is satanic. James Talarico, when fascism comes to America, it'll be wrapped in the flag and carrying the cross. Wow. Well, I love my flag and I love my cross. I guess that's me with the trans flag. Oh, he says that with the trans flag, pride flag, and non-binary flag draped over the cross behind him. That's very sick. Denying gender mutilation of children is abuse, he said. It seems like we're actually saying it's denying a child's gender identity doesn't rise to the level of abuse. That's my concern. So he thinks it's abuse when you deny a child to be their own God with a little g. That's what that is. When you allow a child to say, I'm a man, or I'm a woman, or I'm a man when they're not, you are making them their own God with a little g of their own planet, if you will, their own God. They are saying the potter is wrong, the clay is right, but the potter is wrong. They are now the potter, even though they're the clay. They're saying the child is God, basically, with a little g. Biological sexes, there are 6. You saw that one. Our trans community needs abortion care, too. You saw that one. Trans children are God's children. Well, every child and every person, whether they're trans or not, is a child of God. There's nothing wrong with them. Well, they just need help because they're not right. They have mental health issues. They're perfect. They're beautiful. They're sacred. A trans child is beautiful and sacred. This guy is evil. Talarico describes Republican colleagues as straight, cisgendered men. That'll play real well in Texas general primary. No need to sit and cry over your whiteness, your masculinity. Use it. Hey, by the way, this story I'll tell you about here with the Harris County judge. You know, our judge in Dallas County is Clay J. Well, their version of Clay J, a.k.a. Claydolph, is Lena Hidalgo. And she was just kicked out of the Texas Livestock Show and Rodeo. Their sold-out Megan Maroney concert Tuesday night after attempting, this is from Texas Scorecard, after attempting to access ticketed areas without the required credentials and refusing repeated requests to return to assigned seat. You know, she's one of the ones that'll say that Trump is, no kings. Well, she's a queen. This is no queens. This is great. Look at this woman. According to the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Show, Hidalgo and several guests attempted to enter the dirt area premium floor section requiring a chute seat priced at $425 for the seat without valid passes. She just tried to steal seats. Rodeo officials said the group was directed back to their ticketed seating in the county suite. They were already given a suite, but that's not enough for a queen. A rodeo. This story gets worse and worse and worse and funnier and funnier and funnier. Auburn Maga says that Talarico is Beto 2.0. You're exactly right. But Beto, the Mexican, the cultural appropriator, the fake Mexican, Beto, Hussein O'Rourke, who I call him because he's like a Barack Hussein Obama. Beto Hussein O'Rourke had a much better chance. This guy is so radical left. He makes Beto look like a yellow dog Democrat, a Southern Democrat. Okay, continuing on. A Rodeo Houston source told KPRC Channel 2 that officials asked Hidalgo multiple times to return to the suite because the suite's not good enough for a queen. Remember, no queens, no kings. She told her multiple times to return to the suite before asking her to leave the stadium altogether when she refused. But being like a little queen, she decided to stay. Hidalgo claims in a since deleted Facebook post. Remember, this is the county judge of a 5 million member county. Houston metropolitan area is actually not as large as Dallas. We are the 4th largest metropolitan area in the country now. We overtook San Francisco as the 4th. They are now the 5th. Houston is then the 6th, I believe. We have more people collectively as a metroplex, but their county has 5 million. Dallas has about 2.5 million, maybe more than that now, but last time I checked, 2.5 million. Okay? Now, Hidalgo claimed in a since-deleted Facebook post and in a formal 2-page letter sent to the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Show leadership that she was physically shoved, grabbed, threatened, cajoled, and arrested by rodeo committee members. She said that by virtue of her position as a county judge, she serves as an ex officio director of the rodeo and had always been permitted on the dirt floor without a wristband and special pass. Well, as a queen, you expect it, but not this time. A man identified by Hidalgo, named John Presley, as the head of security for Houston Livestock Rodeo, personally escorted her out of the stadium and to her vehicle. Good. Following the incident, Hidalgo posted multiple videos and audio recordings to Facebook, which she described as receipts of what occurred. A source cited by KPRC says Hidalgo is the only elected official to have requested shoot tickets during the entire 2026 rodeo season. The only elected official. Over at least 3 prior visits this season, she and her guests have already received 21 shoot tickets at no charge with a combined value of $9,000. Not enough for a queen. It's never enough. That's on top of access to the county-owned suite at NRG Stadium, where I see the Stones. I've seen the Stones a couple times. And Harris County officials receive under the county's lease arrangement with Houston Livestock Rodeo. She previously attended a Beyonce concert at the stadium at no personal cost due to an ongoing agreement with Harris County Sports Convention Corporation. This is a crazed lunatic. Or I should say an entitled woke queen. And she's going to do some attacks on race, on whites here in a second. This is great. Because she's going to talk about her white privilege cards. But what I want to know is where's my free Beyonce tickets? Because I'm whipping out my white privilege card right now. Now I need some help down here. Let's say it better. Now I need some help down here. Hidalgo attributed her removal to sexism. Sexism and possible political motivation. Writing in her letter that a male county executive would not have been treated the same way. She also wrote that mostly white men have felt emboldened to treat Hispanics with physical force, and noted that she no longer travels without her passport. She's the highest elected official in the largest population county in the state of Texas, and she's afraid to travel without her passport. La migra, la migra. That's great. Oh, that's great. In her original Facebook post, she called out Houston Livestock and Rodeo to disclose what prior county judges had been charged for concert. What's crazy? Oh, this is great. Last but not least, in September 2025, text messages confirmed she had coordinated with staff to exit a Harris County budget meeting. at 5:45 to attend a Hans Zimmer concert at Toyota Center with enough time built in to purchase merchandise. So she left a budget meeting early. She walked out of the meeting telling colleagues, "Shame on you." Why? Because they didn't buy her free tickets? Commissioner Adrian Garcia said she let down the nearly 5 million Harris County residents she serves. Hidalgo announced she would not seek re-election in 2026. Shortly after that episode. So these are the people telling you that whites are bad and all this stuff, and that somebody like you or me has white privilege cards. I try to whip out my white privilege card everywhere I go, but it just doesn't work for some reason. I'm so angry about that. Okay. Austin Pride Week. Here's the story about Austin ISD and Pride Week. They literally are trying to openly celebrate Pride Week, but hide it from people like you and me getting it on social media and exposing it and maybe getting in the media because they know they're violating Texas law, which I'll explain in a moment. So they're literally saying any photographers, when you take pictures or anybody that takes any pictures of Pride Week, don't let any physical markers that show what school it is or a mascot indicating what school is that so they can't get us. But we still want you to celebrate Pride. You know we love Pride, which is totally not allowed. Here we go. From Dallas Express today. Austin ISD Pride Week sparks time for state intervention warning. After documents showed Austin ISD pushing LGBT Pride events, State Board of Education member Brandon Hall called for officials to step in. He said AISD flaunts the law to facilitate woke indoctrination with taxpayer resources. Austin ISD planning to hold Pride Week from March 23rd to 24th, according to district guidelines that are published online. District officials asked photographers to protect student privacy, but also maintain campus anonymity. Avoid identifying markers. Don't include images that clearly identify a specific school. Check the background. Avoid capturing school signage, mascot logos, specific room numbers, a distinctive campus architecture that could reveal a location to the general public. This is crazy. Because they worship pride, gay pride stuff. They worship this stuff. So there you go. They're going to do everything they can. District officials encourage voluntary pride activities outside instructional time, such as lunch, advisory periods, and morning meetings, or before school. Hey, guys, good morning. Let's celebrate Pride. Like, what is this crap? This is the lesson. They're not learning math, reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is the lesson. Worship LGBTQ stuff. If parents wish for their child to not participate, they may contact the school principal who will make alternative arrangements for the student. Ridiculous. SB 12 took effect September of last year. It prohibits DEI, including policies, procedures, or training programs that reference race, color, ethnicity, gender identity, or sexual orientation, except for those required by federal law. Is it required by federal law to celebrate Pride? Because I think they're violating the law. In an ever-changing environment, we have to evaluate ways we've done things in the past. AISD says, while the way we celebrate Pride may change, our values do not. They may create pride displays in common area, they say. While officials can't use direct resources for LGBT materials, they can continue to display existing pride swag. Campuses that still have pride flags from previous years or receive a pride flag as a donation may raise those flags. March 23 to 27, district officials said. This is a guy who is one of the experts in here that they quote from Dallas Express. What's his name? Executive Director of Texas Public Policy Foundation. He says, this is clearly being coordinated and orchestrated by the school district. They can't avoid responsibility by claiming these are outside of or voluntary activities. Pride activities could potentially constitute a form of sexual education without parental consent, and trying to use a backdoor for non-approved sex education instruction without parental consent. Very bad. Now, I have a few short ones to share with you. What a day, huh? What a show with you. Could pending judicial misconduct case impact Amber Gibbons' ability to be DA? This is a super woke, hardcore BLM leftist judge. Now, I'm 99.9%. The last time I was called for jury duty in Dallas County, which is like every other year, it's unbelievable. Nobody apparently shows up. It's unbelievable how often they call me and my wife to jury duty. But I went for a case, I think it was a murder case. I could be wrong. They were doing voir dire, which is where they're going over the jury and trying to pick the jury panel. And before it started, this hyper woke judge told us about there were no pictures of black female judges. I am the first black female judge, or something like that. She had said, "See why these pictures are on here? These pictures are on to show that there is no white. There were all white judges before. Now I'm a black judge." That is, I think I'm 99.9% it was her. And then I saw her getting in trouble and all these other things. And now this woman's going to be our DA for Dallas County instead of Let Him Go Crusoe. This is crazy. Now, she will not be kicked out of DA if she gets found guilty in these things by the Special Court of Review. But she's going to get in a lot of trouble, and she has been in a lot of trouble because she's done several things. She's corrupt and a lunatic and all sorts of stuff. The Special Court of Review is expected to decide whether Judge Amber Givens is guilty of multiple judicial misconduct allegations that have been looming for over 5 years over her. Dallas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association filed 2 complaints. This is from the Dallas Morning News. She allowed a staff member to stand in for her during a virtual bond hearing and had harshly treated attorneys and defendants appearing before her on multiple occasions. Another investigation initiated the following year by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Allegations she presided over 2 criminal cases after she'd been recused, jailing a man in one case, revoking bond in another. Last summer, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct issued 2 sanctions against her. The first included a public reprimand, the harshest sanction available, public reprimand, for the bond hearing incident and her treatment of an attorney's defendants in her court. The second was an admonition, a public warning to address violations of the Judicial Conduct Code for her actions and recusal cases. So let's give her more power. People of Dallas County did. Courts appealed and findings, and the trial was held last month at the Texas Supreme Court in Austin. The 3-judge panel will give a decision shortly, by April 24th. The only impact they could do if they find her guilty is issuing another public reprimand would mean that she wouldn't be allowed to serve as a visiting judge. Her attorney says she won the race by more than 20,000 votes. She won't suffer politically. Well, that's what happens in Dallas County. I am not a fan in any way, shape, or form, and you know this, of Mayor Eric Johnson if you know me and you follow me. Mayor Eric Johnson played the woke game and said when somebody was commenting about her, remember that one reporter, and she said something and he said that was racist. Whenever you point out stuff about Mayor Eric Johnson, he says it's racist if he doesn't like it. Number 2, he is a fake Republican, as evidenced by that behavior, but he's a fake Republican who only became a Republican after we won an election. He is not a Republican. He's only doing that so he can run for statewide office one day and win. He is not a Republican. He's a fake Republican. He's thin-skinned, and he uses racism whenever he feels like he needs to. Second of all, this today from the Dallas Morning News, business leaders sought Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson's ear. Emails show staff stepped in. Basically, he's hard to get a hold of, even when you're a big CEO moving your bank to Dallas. For example, this is a Canadian bank that was moving in, and it was like next to impossible to get him to show up for things. He wouldn't return calls, and the Tolbert, the city manager, was apologizing and say, "I'll get him on the phone" and stuff. I'm not surprised. Now, ICE deported a Dallas man accused of fraud before he could face trial. Few people, it seems, this is also from the Dallas Morning News, few people, it seems, are particularly pleased with the outcome of the curious case of U.S. versus some guy with a long name who's illegal, except perhaps ICE. He worked as a prison guard. He was charged with a lot of stuff. He was charged with, like, fraud, identity theft, that kind of stuff. Here, conspiracy to commit access device fraud, aggravated identity theft, related to conduct allegedly committed from late 2020 and 2021. Well, the Dallas Morning News is upset because he didn't go to trial. We just deported him. To which I say, I think it's great. Get him out of this country. If he returns, he is a felon returning. So there you go. There's your story. I will see you tomorrow. And I want to tell you this, too. Randy Martin from IRSprob. Oh, watch me tomorrow. Listen to me tomorrow. I'll be on in Houston from 5 to 8 a.m. Central, 6 to 9 Eastern, News Radio 740 KTRH. I'll put it up again today on my socials. You can listen live 5 to 8 a.m. News Radio 740 KTRH Houston. It is the monster station in Houston. This show is brought to you by IRSprob.com, IRSPROB.com, helping good people with IRS problems, specializing in IRS controversy, IRS audits, and tax planning strategies. IRSprob.com.